The deed hit my desk with a slap. I looked up from my laptop. My daughter Victoria stood across from me, arms crossed, jaw set. Sign it. I looked down at the document, legal paper, dense text, my company's name at the top. What is this? Transfer of ownership. The company becomes mine, effective immediately. I picked up the document. Read the first few lines. Transfer of all shares and ownership rights of Hartwell Industries from Margaret Hartwell to Victoria Hartwell Preston. You want me to sign over my company? It's time, Mom. You're 67 years old. You can't run a $50 million manufacturing company anymore. It's too much for you. I set the document down carefully. I've been running this company for 32 years. Exactly 32 years. You've done amazing work, but it's time to pass it on to the next generation, to me. And if I don't want to sign, Victoria's expression hardened. Then you need to move out of this house. It's time for you to downsize anyway, get a small condo somewhere, retire properly. This is my house. I've lived here for 35 years. It's too big for one person. And frankly, Mom, you're not taking care of it properly anymore. The garden is overgrown. Things are falling apart. You need somewhere smaller, more manageable. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. 38 years old, designer suit. Perfect hair and makeup. Manicured nails drumming impatiently on my desk. When had she become this person? You're giving me an ultimatum? I'm giving you a reality check. Sign the papers, retire gracefully. Move into a nice retirement community, or make this difficult for both of us. And if I make it difficult, then I'll have to take legal action, prove you're not competent to run the company anymore, force the transfer. It'll be ugly and public and embarrassing for you. I'm trying to avoid that. She pushed a pen across the desk toward me. 24 hours, Mom, sign the deed and the retirement papers. Or I start the legal process tomorrow morning. She turned and walked out of my office. I sat there for a long moment looking at the deed, then I picked up my phone. Made one call, a call that would change everything. By morning, Victoria would walk into her office expecting to take over my company, but she wouldn't find me there. She'd find someone else sitting in the CEO's chair. Someone she never expected. Someone who had every right to be there, and Victoria's perfect plan would collapse in spectacular fashion. But before I tell you about that morning, about Victoria's face when she realized what I'd done, I need to tell you the whole story. Because nothing about my relationship with my daughter was what it seemed. And that one phone call, it was the culmination of 6 months of careful planning. 6 months of watching, listening, gathering evidence. 6 months of letting Victoria think she was outsmarting me, when really I'd been 10 steps ahead the entire time. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. My name is Margaret Hartwell. I'm 67 years old. I live in Denver, Colorado. 32 years ago, I started Hartwell Industries in my garage. My husband Robert and I had $100,000 in savings. We took every penny and invested it in manufacturing equipment. We made custom metal components for industrial machinery, small parts, precision work, things that bigger manufacturers didn't want to bother with. Robert handled sales. I managed production and operations. For the first 5 years, we worked 18-hour days, lived on nothing, poured every dollar back into the business. Slowly, we built a reputation, quality work, fast turnaround, reliable delivery. Clients started coming to us specifically, recommending us to others. By year 10, we had 20 employees and $2 million in annual revenue. By year 15, we had 50 employees and $8 million in revenue. By year 20, we'd expanded into 3 facilities and hit $20 million in revenue. Robert and I were partners in everything. He was brilliant with people. I was methodical with processes. Together, we built something extraordinary. We had one child, Victoria, born when I was 29. We gave her everything: the best schools, music lessons, sports teams, college tuition at Duke University. She graduated with a business degree in 2008. Started working at Hartwell Industries immediately. I was thrilled. My daughter joining the family business, learning how we did things. Eventually taking over when Robert and I retired. Victoria worked in various departments: sales, operations, finance, learning the business from the ground up. She was smart, capable, ambitious, but something was always slightly off. She didn't want to learn. She wanted to change everything immediately. Mom, we need to modernize, update our processes, bring in new technology. We will, sweetheart, but first you need to understand how things work now, why we do things the way we do. The way you do things is outdated, we're leaving money on the table. She pushed constantly for faster growth, bigger risks. Aggressive expansion. Robert and I were more conservative. We'd built this company slowly and carefully. We weren't going to jeopardize it with reckless decisions. Victoria grew frustrated with us. At 26, she left Hartwell Industries. Said she wanted to start her own business, prove she could do it better. That's wonderful, honey, I said. What kind of business? Manufacturing consulting. I'll help other companies optimize their operations. I know this industry inside and out. She started Preston Manufacturing Consulting, rented office space, hired staff. For 2 years, she struggled. Clients were hard to find. The ones she did get weren't satisfied with her recommendations. Her business failed in 2012. She shut down operations and filed for bankruptcy. Robert and I offered to help financially. She refused. I don't need your charity. Instead, she married Marcus Preston, a man she'd been dating for 6 months. Marcus was 41 at the time. Victoria was 28. He worked in private equity, made good money. Drove an expensive car. Robert didn't trust him. There's something off about that guy. The way he talks about money, about investments. It's all surface, no substance. Robert, you're being overprotective. Victoria is a grown woman. I'm telling you, Margaret, that man is trouble. The wedding was lavish, expensive. Marcus paid for everything. Victoria seemed happy for a while. 5 years ago, Robert died of pancreatic cancer. He was 68. The diagnosis came suddenly. Stage 4, inoperable. He lasted 3 months. I was devastated, lost. We'd been married for 40 years, partners in everything. Victoria came to the funeral, said all the right things, but I could see something in her eyes, something calculating. After Robert died, Victoria started coming around more often. Mom, how are you managing? Running the company alone must be so hard. I'm managing fine. Are you sure? Because I worry about you. You're getting older. The stress can't be good for your health. I appreciate your concern, but I'm fine. She started attending board meetings. Even though she wasn't on the board, she'd sit in the back, take notes, ask pointed questions. Why are we using this supplier? There are cheaper options. Because this supplier is reliable, quality is consistent. That's worth paying for? We're leaving money on the table? The same argument as before. Over the next few years, Victoria's visits became more frequent. She always had suggestions, changes I should make, decisions I was getting wrong. Mom, you really need to consider modernizing our production line. The equipment is 20 years old. The equipment works perfectly. Why replace something that isn't broken? Because newer equipment would be more efficient, faster. We could increase output by 30%. At what cost? And what happens when that new equipment breaks down and we can't find parts or technicians who know how to fix it? She'd sigh, shake her head, like I was a stubborn child. Then 6 months ago, things changed. Victoria started showing up at the office unannounced, walking around, talking to employees, asking questions about processes and procedures. My operations manager mentioned it. Mrs. Hartwell, Victoria was here again yesterday. She was asking detailed questions about our supplier contracts. It felt like an audit. What did you tell her? Nothing specific. I said she'd need to talk to you about confidential information. Good, if she asks again, refer her to me. But Victoria didn't ask me. She went around me. I started hearing things from various employees. Victoria had been asking about financial performance, profit margins, client relationships. She'd been suggesting changes, telling people that when she took over, things would be different. When she took over, not if, when. Like it was inevitable, I said nothing, just watched, and I started to notice other things. Small things at first, documents that had been moved on my desk. Like someone had been going through them, files on my computer that showed recent access, even though I hadn't opened them. My assistant mentioned something odd. Mrs. Hartwell, Victoria was here on Saturday. She said you'd asked her to pick up some files. I let her into your office. Was that okay? What files? She didn't specify. She was in there for about 20 minutes. I hadn't asked Victoria to pick up anything. I changed my computer password, put locks on my filing cabinets, but the behavior continued. Victoria would mention things in conversation, details she shouldn't know. I heard the Johnson account is thinking about leaving. That's 40% of our Q3 revenue. Where did you hear that? Around, is it true? Client relationships are confidential. Mom, I'm trying to help. If we're losing Johnson, we need to know why. Fix the problem before it's too late. But Johnson wasn't thinking about leaving. They were one of our most satisfied clients. Where was Victoria getting false information? Or was she making it up to create concern? I started paying closer attention. Victoria would mention problems I wasn't aware of, equipment malfunctions that hadn't happened, employee complaints that didn't exist, safety violations that weren't real. She was building a narrative, making it seem like the company was falling apart under my leadership. But why? Then Marcus started showing up, Victoria's husband, the private equity guy. He'd come to the office with Victoria, walk around, ask questions. Margaret, have you thought about bringing in outside investors, scale the business faster? We're privately held, always have been, I like it that way. But think about the possibilities. With the right capital injection, you could triple your revenue in 3 years. Or I could lose control of my own company. He'd smile. That's not how it works. You'd maintain majority ownership, just bring in strategic partners. I'm not interested, but Marcus kept pushing. Every visit he had a new pitch. Investors he knew, deals he could arrange, opportunities I was missing. I said no every time, and Victoria would look more and more frustrated. 4 months ago, Victoria asked me to have lunch, just the two of us, mother and daughter. We went to an upscale restaurant downtown. She insisted on paying. Over salads, she brought up retirement. Mom, have you thought about when you're going to step down? Not particularly. I enjoy running the company. But don't you want to relax, travel, enjoy your golden years? I travel plenty, I enjoy my work. You're 67, most people your age are retired. I'm not most people. She set down her fork. Mom, I'm worried about you. The stress of running a company at your age can't be good for your health. My health is fine. For now, but what happens when it's not? What if you have a stroke or a heart attack or just can't handle it anymore? We need succession planning. We have succession planning. The board knows what to do if something happens to me. The board would bring in an outside CEO, a stranger. Is that what you want? Or do you want the company to stay in the family? There it was, the real agenda. Are you saying you want to be CEO? I'm saying I should be CEO. I'm your daughter. I worked at Hartwell Industries. I understand the business. It should stay in the family. You worked there for 4 years and then left to start your own business, which failed. Her face went hard. That's not fair. I was young. I made mistakes. But I've learned from them. Have you? What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm not ready to hand over my company to anyone. When I'm ready, I'll make that decision. But it won't be because someone pressured me into it. Victoria's smile was cold. I hope you make that decision before it's too late. What does that mean? It means age catches up with all of us eventually. I'd hate to see you lose everything because you were too stubborn to know when to step aside. She left money on the table and walked out. I sat there for a long time thinking about that conversation. It wasn't a discussion about succession planning, it was a threat. After that lunch, I started investigating. I hired a private investigator, gave him one task. Find out everything about Victoria and Marcus's finances, where their money was coming from, where it was going, what debts they had. The report came back 2 weeks later, and it was worse than I'd imagined. Marcus and Victoria were drowning in debt. Their house in Cherry Creek had a $3 million mortgage. They'd bought it 5 years ago at the peak of the market. Now it was worth maybe $2.5 million. They were underwater. Credit card debt, $270,000. Car loans, $150,000. Personal loans, $80,000. Total debt, over $3.5 million. Marcus's private equity job had ended 18 months ago. He'd been fired for poor performance. He'd been unemployed since then, living off savings and credit cards. They were bleeding money, running out of options. And they saw Hartwell Industries as their lifeline. If Victoria could take over the company, she could pay herself a massive salary, solve their debt problems, or better yet, sell the company, walk away with millions. My company wasn't just a business to her, it was a bank account she thought she was entitled to. I showed the financial report to my attorney. Helen Wu had been my lawyer for 20 years. Sharp, strategic, no nonsense. They're desperate, Helen said. Desperate people do dangerous things. What do you think they'll do? Try to force you out, claim you're incompetent, get control of the company legally. Can they do that? If they can prove you're mentally or physically unable to run the company, they might be able to make a case. Especially if they get other family members or board members to support them. I have no other family and the board trusts me. For now. But if Victoria starts planting doubts, creating problems, making it look like you're losing control, that could change. So what do I do? Helen smiled. You do what you do best, you plan, you strategize, and you make sure when they make their move, you're ready. I spent the next 3 months watching everything. I installed security cameras in my office, hidden, recording everything. I documented every conversation with Victoria, every visit, every suggestion. I had my IT department monitor access to company files, track what was being viewed, by whom, and I discovered something interesting. Someone had been accessing confidential files remotely, using stolen login credentials. My IT manager traced it back. The logins were happening from Victoria's home IP address. She'd been hacking into company systems. Stealing information, that was a crime. I had evidence, timestamps, IP addresses, proof, but I didn't confront her, not yet. I wanted to see what she'd do with the information, and I wanted to know who else was involved. 2 months ago, Victoria showed up at my office with a man I didn't recognize. Mom, this is Richard Stevens. He's an attorney specializing in business succession planning. Richard was mid-50s, expensive suit, slick smile. Mrs. Hartwell, pleasure to meet you. Victoria has told me so much about you and your impressive company. Has she? Yes, she's concerned about succession planning, making sure the business transitions smoothly when the time comes. The time for what? For retirement. Estate planning, these are important considerations. I have an attorney, Helen Wu, she handles all of that. Of course, but Victoria thought it might be helpful to get a second opinion. Someone who specializes specifically in family business transitions. He opened a briefcase, pulled out documents. I've prepared some preliminary paperwork just to review options, transfer of ownership structures, tax implications. That sort of thing. He spread papers across my desk. I didn't touch them. Mr. Stevens, I didn't ask for your services. I'm not interested in a second opinion. Mom, just look at the documents. Richard has some really smart strategies for minimizing estate taxes and ensuring the company stays in the family. No, Victoria's jaw tightened. Why are you being so stubborn about this? Because I don't need a lawyer I didn't hire telling me what to do with my own company. Richard collected his papers. Still smiling, I understand it's a big decision. Take some time to think about it. Victoria has my number if you change your mind. After they left, I called Helen. Someone named Richard Stevens just tried to get me to sign succession planning documents. Have you heard of him? Richard Stevens, I know that name. Let me look him up. She called back an hour later. Margaret, Richard Stevens was disbarred in California 8 years ago for fraud. He was helping clients forge estate documents, steal from elderly family members. He moved to Colorado and somehow got licensed here. But there have been complaints he's trouble. Victoria brought him to my office. Long silence. Then Victoria is planning something illegal and she's working with a corrupt attorney to do it. What do I do? Keep documenting everything. And Margaret, start thinking about your endgame because this is going to get worse before it gets better. She was right. 1 week later, the deed hit my desk. Sign it or get out, 24 hours. Victoria's ultimatum. I looked at the document she'd left on my desk. Transfer of ownership, my company to her. Immediate and complete. Also in the stack, retirement papers, resignation as CEO. Documentation declaring I was voluntarily stepping down due to age and health concerns. All of it prepared by Richard Stevens. All of it designed to strip me of everything I'd built. I sat in my office for a long time thinking. Victoria expected me to panic, to argue, to refuse, and then she'd start the legal process. Claim I was incompetent, get doctors to say I was in cognitive decline, force me out publicly and humiliatingly. But what if I didn't fight? What if I let her think she'd won? I picked up my phone, called Helen Wu. Helen, it's time, execute the plan. Are you sure? Absolutely certain. It's going to be fast. Once we start, here's no going back. I'm ready. Okay, I'll make the calls. It'll be done by morning. I hung up, sat back in my chair, smiled, because what Victoria didn't know was that I'd been planning this for 3 months. Every contingency mapped out, every possibility considered, and that one phone call was about to change everything. 3 months ago, when I'd first realized Victoria was planning to take my company, I'd called an emergency board meeting. Hartwell Industries had a 5-person board of directors, myself as CEO and chairman, Helen Wu, my attorney, James Chen, my CFO, Patricia Morrison, an independent business consultant, and Dr. Robert Whitman, a retired manufacturing executive. I'd known all of them for at least 15 years, trusted them completely. I called the meeting at my home, private, confidential. I told them everything. Victoria's financial problems, the hacking, the corrupt attorney, the plan to force me out. I need your help, I said, and I need to do something drastic. How drastic? Patricia asked. I want to sell the company. Silence. Sell? James looked shocked. But this is your life's work. Exactly, it's my life's work, not Victoria's. She didn't build this. She doesn't understand it. She doesn't deserve it. Who would you sell to? Helen asked. I have a buyer, someone who's been interested for years. I've kept them at arm's length because I wasn't ready, but now I'm ready. How much? James asked. $52 million, cash offer, immediate close. The board members looked at each other. That's a good offer, Patricia said slowly, but what happens to all of us? To the employees? The buyer wants to keep the company intact. Same name, same leadership team, same employees. They're just providing capital for expansion and taking ownership. And what do you get? Dr. Whitman asked. $52 million. After taxes, about $35 million, enough to retire comfortably, enough to fund charitable work I've been wanting to do, enough to live however I want. And Victoria gets nothing, Helen said. Victoria never deserved anything from this company. She left, started her own business. Failed. Now she's trying to steal mine because she's drowning in debt. When would this happen? James asked. As soon as Victoria makes her move. The moment she tries to force me out, we execute the sale. The buyer is ready, papers are drawn up, we can close in 72 hours. That's incredibly fast, Patricia said. The buyer wants it fast. They've been waiting for this opportunity. They're ready to move. Who is the buyer? Dr. Whitman asked. I smiled. Someone Victoria is going to absolutely hate. The buyer was Samantha Torres, 45 years old. Self-made millionaire, CEO of Torres Manufacturing Group, and Victoria's ex-business partner. Back in 2010, when Victoria had started her consulting business, she'd partnered with Samantha. They'd worked together for 18 months, then Victoria had betrayed her. Victoria had stolen clients, taken confidential information, started competing directly with Samantha. She destroyed their partnership and tried to destroy Samantha's business. It hadn't worked. Samantha had survived. Thrived, actually. She'd built Torres Manufacturing Group into a $100 million company, acquired several smaller manufacturers, became one of the most successful women in Colorado business. She'd reached out to me 5 years ago, asked if I'd ever consider selling Hartwell Industries. I'd said no at the time. But we'd stayed in touch, had lunch occasionally, talked about the industry. When I realized what Victoria was planning, I called Samantha. Are you still interested in buying Hartwell Industries? Absolutely. What changed your mind? Let's just say I'm ready to retire on my own terms, not someone else's. We negotiated for 2 weeks, came to an agreement. $52 million, cash, quick close, she'd become CEO. I'd stay on the board as advisor for 2 years to ensure smooth transition. All employees kept their jobs, same benefits, same terms. The company would continue as a subsidiary of Torres Manufacturing Group but keep its name and identity. It was perfect except for one detail. Victoria would get nothing, not the company, not control, not even a job. And she'd find out in the most humiliating way possible. After Victoria left my office with her ultimatum, I went home, made the call to Helen, then I packed a bag. I wasn't going to be there in the morning when Victoria came looking for me. I checked into a hotel downtown under a fake name, cash payment. Helen would handle everything. At 8 p.m. my phone rang. Helen, papers are signed, sale is complete. $52 million wired to your account. Samantha takes possession of Hartwell Industries effective immediately. And the board meeting happened an hour ago, unanimous vote approving the sale. All legal requirements met, it's done. What about employees? Samantha sent an email to all staff at 7 p.m., explained the transition, assured everyone their jobs are safe, invited them to an all-hands meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. to meet their new CEO. And Victoria, Helen laughed. Victoria is going to have the surprise of her life tomorrow morning. I slept better that night than I had in months. Victoria arrived at Hartwell Industries at 7:30 a.m. I know because security cameras captured everything. She walked in confident, carrying her briefcase, wearing a power suit. She headed straight for my office. My assistant Lisa wasn't at her desk yet, too early. Victoria tried the door, locked. She used a key I didn't know she had. A copy she must have made somehow. Opened the door and stopped. The office was empty. Not just empty of me, empty of everything, my desk, my files, my photos, my personal belongings, all gone. Victoria stood in the doorway, confused. She pulled out her phone, called me. I didn't answer. She called again. I declined the call. She walked back to the lobby, found Lisa arriving. Where's my mother? I don't know. I just got here. Her office is empty. Where did everything go? I don't know anything about that. Victoria's phone rang. Marcus, she answered. I'm here. Something's wrong. Mom's office is empty. She's not answering her phone. I couldn't hear his response, but I saw Victoria's face change. What do you mean there's a company-wide email? What email? She pulled out her laptop, opened it right there in the lobby. Read something on the screen. Her face went white. No, this can't be real. She started running down the hallway toward the executive offices. Burst into the CEO's office and found Samantha Torres sitting behind the desk. Hello, Victoria? Samantha's voice was calm, professional. Victoria stared. What are you doing here? I'm the new CEO of Hartwell Industries. As of last night, I own this company. That's impossible. This is my mother's company. Was your mother's company. She sold it to me. The sale closed yesterday evening. She can't sell it. I'm her daughter. She has to. She doesn't have to do anything. Margaret owned 100% of Hartwell Industries. She had every right to sell it to whomever she wanted. This is insane. She wouldn't sell without telling me. Samantha pulled out a document, slid it across the desk. Sale agreement, signed by your mother, witnessed by the board of directors, processed by our attorneys. $52 million. Company ownership transferred to Torres Manufacturing Group. Me. Victoria grabbed the document. Read it frantically. This can't be legal. I'm her daughter. I'm entitled to. You're entitled to nothing. You don't work here. You never owned shares. You have no legal claim to this company. But I was supposed to take over. We had an agreement. Did you? Was there a written agreement, a contract, anything legally binding? Victoria had no answer. I thought not, Samantha continued. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave this building. You're not going to contact any employees. You're not going to spread rumors or cause problems. And you're certainly not going to come back here. You can't kick me out, your mother doesn't work here anymore either. She retired. I'm in charge now, and I'm telling you to leave. I'll sue. I'll fight this. On what grounds? Your mother sold her own company. That's completely legal. You have no standing to challenge it. Victoria's hands were shaking. This is because of what happened years ago. You're doing this for revenge. Samantha smiled. I'm doing this because your mother called me and offered to sell. She wanted the company to go to someone who would respect what she built. Someone who actually knows how to run a business. Someone who isn't drowning in debt and desperate. How do you know about? I know everything, Victoria, about your failed business, about your debt, about your plan to force your mother out and steal her company. Margaret told me all of it. Where is she? That's none of your business. I need to talk to her? No, you don't. What you need to do is leave. Security will escort you out. 2 security guards appeared in the doorway. Victoria looked at them, looked at Samantha, looked at the sale agreement in her hands. This isn't over. Oh, it's very much over. Goodbye, Victoria. The security guards walked Victoria out of the building. She stood in the parking lot alone, holding the deed she'd tried to force me to sign. A deed that was now completely worthless, because I didn't own the company anymore, and she never would. I watched the security footage from my hotel room, watched Victoria's face when she realized what had happened, watched her world collapse. Part of me felt guilty. She was my daughter. I'd raised her, loved her. but the larger part of me felt nothing but relief. Victoria had tried to steal from me, manipulate me, force me out of the company I'd built from nothing. She'd betrayed me in the worst way possible. And now she was facing the consequences. Helen called me an hour later. It's done. Victoria is gone. Samantha is settling in. The employees are thrilled, actually. They'd heard rumors about Victoria trying to take over and they weren't happy about it. What about Marcus? Interesting development there. Apparently, Marcus tried to get into the building this morning, said he had important documents to deliver. Security turned him away. He's called 6 times demanding to speak to you. He won't reach me. I know. But Margaret, there's something else. What? Remember when you asked me to investigate Victoria and Marcus's finances? Yes. I kept digging after I gave you that initial report. Found something interesting, your house. The one you've lived in for 35 years. What about it? Do you remember when Robert refinanced it about 10 years ago? Vaguely, he handled all that. Well, the house was put into a trust. Robert set it up as an estate planning measure, made you the trustee, but the actual ownership is held by the Margaret Hartwell Family Trust. Okay, which means Victoria can't claim it's a family asset she's entitled to. She has no legal claim to the house, it's protected in the trust, she can't touch it. I smiled. Robert was always thinking ahead. Smart man, but here's where it gets better. Marcus apparently told Victoria that once she took over the company, they'd sell your house to pay off their debts. They were planning to kick me out and sell my own house? Yes, but they can't. Because you control the trust. And even if Victoria somehow managed to argue she had a claim, the trust specifically states that you have lifetime residency rights. She literally cannot force you out. So the deed she gave me yesterday was completely meaningless. She was bluffing, hoping you'd panic and sign over the company, but she had no legal way to make you leave your house. I started laughing. Victoria's entire plan had been built on lies and bluffs. And I'd called her bluff in the most spectacular way possible. 2 days later, more information came to light. Helen called with an update. Margaret, you need to hear this. Samantha went through the company files yesterday. She found something concerning. What? Evidence that someone has been embezzling from Hartwell Industries, small amounts, disguised as legitimate expenses. But it adds up to about $200,000 over the past 18 months. My stomach dropped. Who? The paper trail leads to Marcus? How is that possible? Marcus never worked for Hartwell. No, but Victoria had been coming to the office regularly. She'd access your computer, your files. And Marcus would use her access credentials to submit false expense reports, vendor invoices for services that were never performed, payments to shell companies he controlled. Can we prove it? Yes. The IT logs show Victoria's login accessing the accounting system. Bank records show payments going to companies that Marcus owns. It's all documented. What do? We report it to the police. This is theft, fraud, embezzlement. They could both go to jail. I thought about it, my daughter facing criminal charges. Do it, I said, file the report. Are you sure? She tried to steal my company, she tried to steal my house. And apparently she's been stealing money for over a year. She made her choices. She can face the consequences. Helen filed the police report that afternoon. By evening, detectives were at Victoria and Marcus's house with a warrant. Marcus was arrested 3 days later. The evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, false invoices, shell companies, IT logs showing unauthorized access, $200,000 in theft, clear fraud. Victoria wasn't arrested. Not yet. But she was named as an accomplice under investigation. She called me for the first time since the company's sale. I answered, Mom, Victoria, they arrested Marcus. They're saying he stole from your company, and yes, he did. $200,000. I didn't know, I swear I didn't know. Really? Because the evidence shows he used your login credentials to access the accounting system, your access, your accounts, your passwords. Silence. Victoria, did you know Marcus was stealing? More silence. I needed the money, she said finally. We were drowning, the house, the cars, the credit cards, everything was falling apart. So you helped him steal from me. I didn't see it that way. I thought I was going to inherit the company anyway. It was just taking it a little early. You were stealing from me while planning to force me out and take everything I'd built. You don't understand the pressure we were under? Then you should have asked for help. You should have come to me honestly and said you needed money. I would have helped you, given you a loan, something, but instead you lied, you stole, you tried to manipulate me. Because I knew you'd judge me. Just like you're judging me now, I'm not judging you for having financial problems. I'm judging you for trying to solve them by destroying me. I wasn't trying to destroy you. I was trying to save my family. By taking mine, do you hear yourself? She was crying now. What do you want from me? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry. Is that good enough? No, it's not, because you're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry you got caught? That's not true. Then turn yourself in, tell the police everything, admit what you did, face the consequences. They'll put me in jail, maybe, or maybe they'll show leniency if you cooperate. But either way, you have to take responsibility for your actions. And what about you? Are you going to press charges? The company is pressing charges. Samantha and I both reviewed the evidence. She's the CEO now, it's her decision. And yes, she's pressing charges. Of course she is, she hates me. She doesn't hate you, she just doesn't trust you, and neither do I. Victoria hung up. It was the last time we spoke. 6 months later, Marcus went to trial. Embezzlement, fraud, identity theft for using Victoria's credentials. The evidence was overwhelming. He was convicted on all counts, sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Victoria was offered a plea deal, testify against Marcus, admit her role, accept probation and community service. She refused, said she wouldn't betray her husband. So she went to trial too. The prosecution showed the IT logs. Victoria's login accessing the accounting system at times when she wasn't even in the building. Clear evidence that she'd given Marcus her credentials. Emails between Victoria and Marcus discussing the extra income from the company. Text messages about paying off credit cards with the money from mom's business. She couldn't deny it. The jury found her guilty. Accessory to embezzlement, conspiracy to commit fraud, sentenced to 3 years in prison. I didn't attend the trial, couldn't bear to watch, but Helen was there. She called me after the verdict. It's done, Victoria will serve 3 years. Eligible for parole in 2. How did she look? Broken. She cried through the whole sentencing hearing, kept saying she was sorry. Do you believe her? I don't know, maybe she's sorry now. But she wasn't sorry when she was doing it. No, she wasn't. That was 2 years ago. Victoria has been in prison for 26 months now, eligible for parole in 4 months. She's written me letters, dozens of them. I haven't responded to any. I don't know if I ever will. Marcus is still in prison, won't be eligible for parole for another 4 years. They lost everything. The house, the cars, all of it seized to pay restitution. Hartwell Industries is thriving under Samantha's leadership. Revenue is up 40%. She expanded into new markets, hired more employees. Everything Victoria said I was too old to do, Samantha is doing successfully. I serve as an advisor on the board, meet with Samantha once a month, offer guidance when asked. But mostly I'm retired, I travel, I volunteer, I support charities. I bought a smaller house in the mountains, peaceful, quiet. And I'm writing a book about my experience, about building a business from nothing. About betrayal from the people you love most, about knowing when to fight and when to walk away, about making the hardest decision of my life. People ask me if I regret selling the company. I don't. Hartwell Industries was my life's work, but it was also just a company. What mattered was what it represented, 32 years of hard work, of building something meaningful. Victoria wanted to take that and turn it into a quick payout to solve her problems. She didn't understand what the company meant. What it represented, she just saw dollar signs, so I gave the company to someone who did understand. Someone who would honor what Robert and I built, and I walked away with my dignity intact, with $52 million, yes. But more importantly, with my self-respect. I didn't let Victoria manipulate me, control me, destroy what I'd built. I made my own choice, on my own terms, and that's worth more than any amount of money. If someone you love tries to force you into a corner, tries to take what you've built, tries to manipulate you into giving them what they want, remember this, you always have a choice. You can fight, you can walk away, you can outsmart them. But you never have to give in to threats and ultimatums. Victoria thought she had me trapped, thought I'd panic and sign over my company to avoid conflict. She was wrong because I'd been planning, watching, waiting. And when she finally made her move, I was ready. Sometimes the best revenge isn't fighting back. It's walking away with everything that matters and leaving them with nothing. Victoria wanted my company. Instead, she got a prison sentence. And I got my freedom. My name is Margaret Hartwell, and this is how I won. Thank you for watching this story. If it resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below with your thoughts. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice to protect what you built? Share your story in the comments. Your engagement helps these stories reach more people who need to hear them.